And it's like being amongst friends here because there's HSI, 4 and we'll just check my list in case I miss anyone. Animal Policy International, laws, how can I forget laws? It's really important that everybody's here together because we're all singing from the same hymn sheet on this one. We're here to seek to end the import of foie gras by force feeding as soon as possible. And it's, you know, I can't even look at the screen on some of these things. The brochure in front of you makes the case so clearly. If there was ever any need to be making the case why we need to ban the import, because we are encouraging, as long as we're having the import, we are encouraging other countries to produce foie gras. So it's not on. We haven't had foie gras manufactured, produced, force-fed in this country since 2000. So, you know, we made the case as compassionate human beings. It's not right to have it in the UK. So why are we still condoning it across the world? It's not appropriate. I was a shadow DEFRA minister. I am no longer in the DEFRA team. I am a backbencher, so that gives me freedom to speak out. And I know that the current DEFRA team did pledge to ban foie gras before the general election. I know that because I was the one saying it. So, so I have a little inside information there. So I'm making sure that Steve Reid, our Secretary of State for DEFRA, is most certainly very much aware of the strength of feeling across the UK. And let's be in no doubt, because everybody out there is very, very clear they want it banned. And every poll will show you that the vast majority of people, and people like me, MPs, constituents, write to me, why on earth are you still allowing this to continue? And I'm sure Sir Roger and Ben, you know, they will have the same sort of compassionate constituents who are demanding that we stop this. Stop it now, ban the imports now. So we need to keep up the pressure, and seeing you all here today is brilliant to do that. I do want to say thank you to Animal Equality for actually bringing this to us today. The brochures, the foie gras. Where's our chef? You know, it's just amazing to see the foie gras. I love it. We've got why we have foie gras, and I think, you know, being so inventive with the alternative, and I know you're going to say something later on, so I will get out of the way. My apologies, I'm rushing off. I've got a meeting with the minister, so I do apologise for disappearing. But please be assured I'm here speaking up, as are the other MPs. We need to get this done, and we need to get it sorted properly. So thank you so much for coming today. I'm going to hand over to Abigail, who will tell you the cold, hard facts and figures on this instead of the emotion. So thank you, Abigail. Over to you.
And just before she does dash off, I do want to say a very big thank you to Ruth for just being a beacon of hope for animals and for animal equality as well, and for sponsoring the event today. We really are very, very grateful to you. Also, of course, I'd like to warmly welcome everyone in the room, whether they're here in person or joining us through the live stream remotely, because of course we're very glad to be able to have the opportunity to talk about an issue that is so important and that resonates so strongly with the British people. It's a cruelty inflicted on animals that is so unimaginably disturbing that, as Ruth mentioned, the now Secretary of State for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, Steve Reid, personally promised to put an end to it in the lead up to the general election. So I think we're going to see his exact words right now on screen.
Pipes down those animals' throats and they're just forcing that food in. Oh, they're terrified. Disgusting. Look at the tiny little cages they're in as well. Oh no, that is just shocking. It is beyond disgusting. They're force feeding these terrified animals to fatten their livers. The Conservatives are on the side of that kind of cruelty to animals. Labour will ban the import of foie gras that is made following these abhorrent, cruel practices. On the 4th of July, you've got the chance to vote for change. For Labour is a vote for animals. Do you agree with me? Pass this message on.
I should say we do have some Conservative MPs in here with us, so not necessarily totally the case, but for those of you who don't already know me, I'm Abigail Penny. I'm the Executive Director of Animal Equality UK, a leading international animal protection organisation. Our global team has been fighting hard to end the force feeding of animals for many, many years now. Just over a decade ago, our brave investigators filmed inside over a dozen foie gras farms in Spain and in France. They witnessed what no one should ever have to witness, and certainly what no animal should ever have to experience. They recorded ducks and geese confined in cramped wire cages, being forcefully restrained as a long metal tube was thrust down their throat. Some birds were bleeding, some birds were panting, all were wild-eyed and terrified. Quite literally armed with stacks of paperwork and video evidence, our director in India, Amruta, took this footage to the Indian Ministry of Foreign Trade. She visited them not just once, but over and over and over again, and her persistence proved worthwhile. Within 2 years, India ended the sale and importation of foie gras. Animal Equality's team shares a similar story here in the UK too, one of grit, focus and tenacity. Since 2017, my team and I have been leading the charge, supported by many of our allies in the room, in calling for an end to the UK's importation of products made by force feeding, including foie gras. We've secured cross-party political backing. As you can see today, we've had plenty of people still showing their support. I don't know why there's music playing. We've garnered hundreds of thousands of petition signatures on our support for our campaign, and we've also sparked a Westminster debate, prompted hundreds of mainstream media articles, and successfully encouraged restaurants to drop foie gras from their menus. This time last year, our campaign even hit the front page of the Times. But there is one crucial difference between our story in the UK and that of our team in India. Right now, the end to our story is unwritten. Today, we have a chance to decide how that story ends. This isn't just another event, this is a catalyst for change. That's why we're privileged to be joined by a number of expert speakers, each of whom will make a compelling case. You'll hear from a Michelin-starred French chef who dropped foie gras from his menu and whose business has been thriving ever since. You'll hear from a trade expert and members of the European Parliament issuing loud and clear reassurances that the UK has unwavering support on this issue from key trading partners across Europe. And you will hear from influential politicians who recognise that with nearly 9 in 10 Brits opposed to the force feeding of animals, an import ban would put the desires and the demands of the British people at the heart of our democratic system. So please, let's close this chapter, let's end this needless suffering from entering our shores, and let's make history for animals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abby. Thank you. Hello. Thank you very much for coming here this afternoon. So, sorry. Yeah. I love animals like everybody else on this planet, obviously. Sorry, I've got my speech, so I think it will be easier if I read it. Yeah, my name is Alexis Gauthier. I'm a French chef by training and a lifelong advocate of food that celebrates flavor, tradition, and innovation. I'm French, obviously, but I'm also British, so I should say that just to clarify. Like many chefs of my background, I'd once served foie gras as a prize delicacy. At its peak, my restaurant here in Soho, Gauthier Soho, and you're all very welcome to come and try it. We used to serve almost 20 kilos of foie gras every week, so you can imagine how important it was. But I'm here today because I no longer serve foie gras, and my story is about what that matters and why I hope you'll help ensure that the UK no longer does either. Years ago, I was approached by activists outside of my restaurant, and they urged me to confront the realities of foie gras production. I did, and I was horrified. To be fair, as a Frenchman, I thought duck and geese, were there to produce foie gras, and they just loved it. But that wasn't the case at all. I saw footage of duck and geese forced through a process so brutal, it is illegal to produce foie gras here in the UK. The suffering is stark. Birds crammed, I saw it on the pictures earlier on, crammed in cages, enduring force feeding through metal tubes until their livers swell up to 10 times their normal size. This is no food production. It's cruelty, and I realized I could not continue contributing to it and obviously make a living out of it. That was just totally abnormal. Since then, I've transformed my restaurant. We created a plant-based foie gras, which is here, and probably some of you will take some sample, which was so well received that actually drew new customers. I was worried at first, wondering if this change will impact my business, but not a single customer left us. My business didn't suffer, and now neither do the animals. This is a step any restaurant can take, and I'm proud to say that British diners are more open than ever to cruelty-free choices. And I should say that in the past, when we were previous government who almost banned the foie gras, DEFRA was very worried about what restaurants like mine will do to survive. You know, removing the foie gras and the business collapse, but not at all, not at all, not at all. This is super important. We can be creative and we can transform things. So I'm also so proud to be part of Animal Equality's campaign to end foie gras imports. I've stood alongside Abby here and her team, and even personally handing in petition signatures to the government in Downing Street, representing the voices of the hundreds of thousands of people calling for change. And it has been a privilege to play my part in this campaign, so thank you very much. And now it's time for our leaders to play theirs. Very important. What's more, we are on the brink of incredible development in food technology. In a few years, we may well have foie gras produced through cultured meat. No force feeding, no cruelty. There is a startup in Paris called Gourmet, and they are already producing foie gras using without harming the animals and using stem cell from the duck or from the geese. And this is the future. This is really where we should, spend all our creativity. This is why I'm urging you as politicians with the power to make a difference to support the government in making this human change. Importing foie gras keeps a cruel practice alive here in the UK. Foie gras production is illegal here for a reason. It's just incompatible with our national standards for animal welfare. Yeah, actually, it should be banned all around the world. But hey, I urge you today to press for this import ban on foie gras and make the UK a leader in human food policy. It's a decision that will showcase compassion, progress, and commitment to our values on the world stage. And I should say that soon, because Switzerland will have a referendum on the import of foie gras, and it's very likely that Switzerland next year will vote against foie gras. We want Great Britain to be the first to ban. I mean, imagine Switzerland leading. No, come on. No, the French will just, but if it's the British, just imagine. Yes, so let's take this step together. Au revoir, foie gras, and let's show that a future without cruelty is possible, very possible. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thanks. Good afternoon. I'm Roger Gale. I'm the Member of Parliament for Herne Bay and Sandwich. First of all, thank you to Animal Equality for organising this and for their absolutely relentless and staunch support for this cause. We ought not need to be reminded about this kind of thing, but apparently we do. In 6 years as the chairman of the All-Party Parliamentary Animal Welfare Group, it was my proud boast that animal welfare was not allowed to become a partisan issue. And it shouldn't be. It's a cross-party issue. There is support for animal welfare in its broadest sense right across the political spectrum. There are probably as many Tories in the House as many Liberals in the House, probably not quite as many Reform, but we'll get there. They will reform. But there are probably as many across the House as there are in government today. So I think, having seen what I've just seen for the first time, we need to remind Steve Reed of his pledge. We shouldn't have to be saying this. It is an absolute nonsense. I've been saying for a long time, it is absurd that we set animal welfare standards, farm animal welfare standards particularly, in the United Kingdom. And then, having placed our farmers at an entirely proper disadvantage, because it's the right thing to do, we then allow imports of animal products from all over the globe, produced under circumstances that we simply would no longer permit in the United Kingdom. And there is no, I was going to say finer, no more awful example of that than foie gras. It is a quite revolting practice. I first learnt to loathe it about 50 years ago when I watched a French film and saw geese being force-fed. I've since seen in Périgord animals being force-fed, and it is quite vile. But what is particularly nonsensical is that we ban it in the United Kingdom and then allow it to be imported. And that is an absolute nonsense. It should have been done under the last government. It was on the stocks. It didn't happen. We now have a new government that has the opportunity to do it. And I think it's up to each and every person in this room, irrespective of your party politics, to hold Mr. Reed's feet to the fire and say, you've promised it. Now deliver it. Thank you.
So I believe we now have a short video, it's about 3 minutes, showing some support from members of the European Parliament. I think, as Sir Roger Gale mentioned, this isn't only a cross-party political issue in the UK, but also overseas as well. We have a lot of support from our key trading partners across Europe. So they very kindly have given us a short snippet each to showcase that support. And we'll show that video now.
Party
the trade expert, and he's very kindly helped create that compilation for us as well.
And I'll move there. And thank you. I'm Adolfo Sansolini. I'm the Director of Animal Welfare and Trade. In the last 10 years, I've been trying to delete that requirement of minimum liver weights that some of the MEPs referred to. It was established in 1991, arbitrarily, no independent scientific study, no assessment of the impact on animal welfare, fair competition, and consumer choice. It is possible to ban the imports. What also some of the MEPs, we saw MEPs from the far right to the far left speaking. In the European Parliament, there have been over 70 parliamentary questions in the last 10 years asking to remove the requirement of minimum liver weights and pave the way to ban force feeding. What is possible? Trade barriers are difficult to establish, we know that, but there are precedents, and the rules of the WTO establish that based on public morals, Article 20, if you want to be technical, being in the Parliament, Article 20, public morals reason justify some trade barriers. That's why we speak on foie gras made by force feeding. We are not asking to ban foie gras imports. There is one producer, only one in Extremadura with geese only, who tries to do it without force feeding. He could import. If the requirement of minimum liver weights falls, as it should fall in Europe, that foie gras would be just another meat product. There wouldn't be barriers. Force feeding is a crime. It's not my opinion. It's a crime according to UK law. It's a crime according to 22 member states legislation in the EU and 2 out of the 3 Belgian regions. There are up to 800,000 euros of fines in the Flanders, where their neighbors in Wallonia still force feed the animals. A ban on the import of products produced by force feeding, and foie gras is the main, would have a domino effect across Europe, would help a lot to finally achieve the deletion of the minimum liver weights. We're talking about politics. The present Commissioner of Agriculture, who will be replaced this week with the vote in Strasbourg, promised to do it. He said, yeah, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't have any legal, ethical, scientific justification. We have to help them. He didn't do it because there was a lot of pressure in the council. If something like this happens in the UK, we heard already Alexis talking about Switzerland. The main importers of foie gras outside from the EU in other countries are Japan, Switzerland, and Israel, that used to produce foie gras by force feeding, ban force feeding, but still import foie gras. This would be the start of a domino effect in which actually a lot of statements Roger Gale said across the political spectrum, we listen a lot that animal welfare is important and more should be done, that citizens are important. Now this is the time to show that the UK can take the lead globally to end the crime of foie gras for good. This is not about banning foie gras from the UK everywhere, but creating the opportunities for consumer choice and invite through trade opportunities the EU to delete the minimum liver weights requirement and create also more balanced, more fairer conditions for UK farmers and the farmers in 22 member states of the EU and 2 Belgian regions to produce foie gras. There is no reason to produce foie gras by force feeding. Before 1991, where those minimum weights were established arbitrarily, not a single production protocol of foie gras included a minimum weight. It was introduced to privilege the producers in the southwest of France. We can be from here the one to reverse the picture, will bring back animal welfare at the center of this conversation, will allow citizens and consumers around the world, in the UK, but not only, to choose to drive change. This is the only meat product for which consumers are not allowed to choose higher welfare alternatives, to create fairer conditions for farmers, and to have something that actually responds to the concerns of EU citizens, UK citizens, and most of the concerned citizens around the world. So please, I can see MEPs from across the political spectrum. Please do it. I will do my best to help you with our friends of all colors, of all political colors in Europe, to support this strongly, this would be a big boost to make animal welfare shine in the new year across the world. Thank you very much. And thank you.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for giving us your attention, whether you're here in person or at home. Please now enjoy some drinks, enjoy some snacks, help yourself to any of the literature, and let's get foie gras banned. Thank you so much.